Welcome to the 11th video of this series, making Frogger with Godot. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to get our lane items scrolling across the screen, so we have to dodge around them. To be able to do that, the items need to know what direction they're going in and how fast, and we're going to give them that information from the lane. So we'll actually set this up on the lane scene itself. So if we go to the level, I'm going to find an in the water lanes, one of the lanes, that one I'll do, and click Open in Editor to open up that scene and open up the lane script. In the lane script, what we'll do is we'll add an export, which is going to be the direction, where we can go from -1 to 1, and it's an integer, and by default, we'll leave the value as 0. So if we leave it at 0, we'll soon know, because the items will just sit still. And then we'll export a speed, and that speed will be applied then to each of the items in that particular lane. Let's go back to the level. I'll go to 2D view, because it looks a little bit nicer. What you should find now is when you select each of the lanes, on the right-hand side, you have a direction and a speed. I'm going to collapse all of these up so I can see all of the lanes, and open out the road lanes as well, and collapse these up. What we need to do now is set all of these up. And to help you out with this, there's a little sort of table on the screen here for the settings for each of the lanes. So here we have the direction, and here we have the speed. So for the top lane here, the direction is 1 and the speed is 100. For the next lane, the direction is -1 and the speed is 128. So what we need to do now is set these up in the inspector. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll be right back after a fade. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully you've managed to set all of those up. I'll just quickly click through mine so you can see the settings that I've set. So we've got the speeds and the directions now set on our lanes. What we need to do is pass those down to our lane items. So I'll save this and then go into script view. What we're going to do is in the lane here, we're going to grab hold of all of the children of the particular lane, check whether it's a lane item, and if it is, pass down the direction and the speed information. To do that, we'll need some kind of function on the lane item to actually receive it. So let's start off in the laneitem.gd. So first of all, it's going to need a variable, which is going to be the speed that it's going to have. And then we're going to update the speed inside the physics process because of the collisions here. So we'll do func_ph for physics process. Then we can get hold of our current position.x. And we'll do plus equals the speed multiplied by the delta. And we need to give it a speed, which is going to come from the lane. So what we'll actually do is we'll write a setup function here. And this setup function can take in a speed, which will be a float. And it'll also take on the direction, which will be an integer. And inside here, then, we can say that the speed is equal to the speed multiplied by the direction. Now what we need to do from the ready function in the lane is invoke this setup on each of the lane items. So we'll go back to the lane.gd. Then inside the ready, we can say for item in getChildren. Then we'll check if the item is actually a lane item. So we'll say that if the item is lane item, then we get hold of the item dot and invoke our new setup function, sending in the speed and the direction. And I'll go to, or can I make some space here rather than distraction-free mode? Yep, hopefully you can still see things. So in the ready of lane, we iterate through each of the children that we have. We check it if it is a lane item, and if it is, we invoke the setup with the speed and the direction. And all being well, if we go to the lane item here, what should happen is this should be invoked, it should have a speed, and in the first physics frame, we start adjusting our position. We should already be able to see this, actually. Let's run this. They're not going to wrap around yet, but yes, they do start moving. Good. All right then, so I'll close this down. Close down the output. One thing I did just notice there, actually, when they start moving, some of them are going backwards. We need to flip their sprites around. So by default, the sprites are all facing to the left. So we need to flip the sprite if the speed is greater than 0, effectively. To do this, we need to get access actually to the sprite itself. So I'm going to find the lane item scene here. Where are we? Lane item. We need the lane item here, not one of the scenes that's inheriting. We need the lane item. Make sure we've got the laneitem.gd open. We have. Let's grab ourselves a reference to the sprite. And also I'm going to clean up the gaps a little bit here as well. That's better. And now to flip the sprite, what we can do is grab hold of the sprite2d in the setup here, and we can say that the sprite2d dot and flip h is equal to the speed being greater than 0. And now if we run the application, what we should see is, yes, things are now, I think, facing in the right direction. Let me just do that again. I missed the fast cars. Yes, they're facing in the right direction. So I'll close that down. Now there's one piece of this code that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, and it's the use of the sprite2d in the setup here. So the sprite2d variable at the top here has an annotation on ready. What this means, if you're not aware, is don't set this variable up until this node is ready to go in the tree. In other words, this variable will be referencing null, so nothing, until the scene is ready to go in the tree. At that point, we reference the sprite2d and we can use the properties. And how do we know here that we're ready to go in the tree? Well, we invoke the setup actually from the ready in the lane. Now, the lane is a parent of the lane item, and the ready is only invoked on a node when all of its children have had the ready invoked. Therefore, by the time we come to this, the ready has been invoked already on all of the lane items, which means all of their sprite2d variables have been set up, which is why we didn't crash when we arrived at this line here. However, this setup function, it's not really clear from the definition that we need to make sure everything's ready before invoking it on these particular scenes. So if in the future you change the game and the way things are structured, you might end up with suddenly unwanted crashes because you may be using the sprite2d variable before the scene was actually ready to go. So what I'd like to do is move this actually into the ready of the lane item. Now, initially that's going to break because of what I just said. The ready will be invoked on the lane item before it is on lane. Therefore, we call setup too late. We'll fix that, but let's demonstrate that, because if you're not familiar with ready and life cycles and things, it's a good example. So we'll add in the ready function here, and then we'll move this flipping code actually to here. And now if you keep your eye on things when you run the application, you're going to find that the sprites there are backwards again, so they're no longer flipped. And the reason they're no longer flipped is because this is invoked before this one on the lane, because the lane items are children of the lane. So they all have their readies invoked before the lane. Therefore, the setup comes too late for the speed, and the sprite never gets flipped. So we need to enforce a tiny delay before we do this. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually wait for a single process frame, which is extremely quick. The player won't actually notice it or anything, and then we'll flip the sprite. And by the time we have that first process frame, the ready on all of the nodes inside our entire game will have been invoked. So we can do that by typing await and then get tree dot and process frame. And now when we run the application, we should find the sprites, yes, are facing the correct direction again. So I'll close that down and close down the output. I do want to reiterate, though, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the original code here. It's just a little bit safer, I think, to do this in case, as I said, you end up invoking setup functions earlier on in the code in future versions of the game. Now that we've done that, though, we need to deal with the wraparound, because the items are simply just scrolling off the edges of the screen. So as we often do before coding it, let's take a look at how we're actually going to do this. So when the lane item actually loads up, it's going to look at the size of its collision shape. So on the truck, we've got collision shape about like this. And it's going to make a variable called a lane buffer that's going to be the width of that collision shape. Then it's going to get hold of the viewport rect, and it's going to set a variable called right, which is the x of the viewport rect size plus that lane buffer. So it's effectively going to here. Then we're going to have another one, which is called left, which is going to be the left-hand side of the viewport rect minus that lane buffer. So that goes out to here. Then what we're going to do is make something called wrap distance, which is going to be the right minus the left. And then what we'll do is when something, let's say, is moving to the right in this direction, when it gets past this right here, we're then going to subtract the wrap distance from its position. So effectively it lands here and then carries on along the screen, wrapping round. And then we'll do the opposite thing for the items that are moving from the right to the left. So inside the code, you're going to see a setup lane buffer, left, right, and the wrap distance. So back inside the code then, we're going to be using this logic a couple of more times. So what we can do is set ourselves up actually with a property for this, I think. So we can type var and then goes right. And that's going to be our type Boolean. Then we can make a get here, and here we can return, and we'll return the speed is greater than 0. Then we can replace this with goes right, and now we can think about setting up those variables. So the first one we're going to have is this lane buffer. So below the speed we can put lane buffer. Then we're going to have wrap distance, and then we'll have our left and our right. So these are going to be set up exactly as we just saw inside the slide. So below the ready here, what we can do then is make a new function called setBounds. I'll type pass, and we'll invoke this directly actually from the ready here. So as soon as we flip the sprite, we'll invoke the setBounds. And to set up our lane buffer, we need the size of the collision shape. And if I scroll up a little bit, I'm not sure, no, we don't have access. So I'm going to drag in a reference to the collision shape, then get hold of the lane buffer and go down here. And I think I'll go to distraction free mode actually. So hopefully things are easiest for you to see. So we have a collision shape 2D reference here, and we've just written the setBounds function here. So in this one, we're going to get the lane buffer and set that equal then to our collision shape 2D dot. We want to get hold of our shape dot. We can then use getRect, I think, to get the rectangle. Then we want the dot size dot x. So that's that lane buffer we talked about in the slide. Then we can set up the left. So the left is going to be equal simply to the minus lane buffer. And then the right is going to be equal to the lane buffer plus the get viewport rect dot size dot x. And then finally, we can set up the wrap distance, which is simply going to be our right minus our left. With that done, it's simply a matter now of updating the physics process to take into account this wraparound. So the first one we're looking for is if the current position x that we have is less than the left and we don't go right. Then we're going to add on our wrap distance to our position.x. So I'll get hold of our position.x plus equals, and we want to add on there our wrap distance. Otherwise, and I'll be very lazy and copy this line here, so we're going to say elif the position.x is greater than the right in this case, and goes right, then what we'll do is position.x, and that's going to be minus equals the wrap distance. So if we're going to the right and we've gone off further than that right that we saw in the slide, we're going to subtract that wrap distance. And that should now, hopefully, make these items wrap around. So with the drum roll then, I'm going to run the application, and hopefully now, yeah, they're definitely, I can see with those fast cars there, they're wrapping around. I'm just checking the logs at the top as well. Yeah, they look like they're wrapping around. Cool. And we should now have, apart from the lily pads and things, a sort of playable game where we need to avoid things and try and get through. We're not able to ride logs and things like that. We'll come to that, but we're now able to actually play a little bit of dodging things with the frog as we got the map. Cool. So I'll press F8 to close that down, close down the outputs, and come out of distraction free mode. Go back into 2D view and also to our level. So we've made another really big step there. We've actually got the lane items now scrolling and wrapping around the screen. And I think that's a really good place to end this video. We've done quite a lot in this one. Thanks very, very much for watching, as always. And what we're going to do in the next one is start setting up the lily pad, which is missing from the map here. So I look forward to seeing you in that one.